Brandon, how are you doing tonight? I hope you're doing better than everybody at RCR.
Oh, yeah, doing wonderful, Ben, and I know you're doing better than everyone at RCR as well. Man, that's a competition meeting, isn't it?
We got a couple of really interesting sound bites from this team here. After the race, Austin Hill said he was pretty excited for Sheldon Creed to leave RCR and also appeared to spill the beans as to where Creed is expected to drive next season, that being Joe Gibbs Racing. Richard Childress himself said, and this is a direct quote, "I've had drivers drive for me before. Nobody as stupid as Sheldon Creed. I can hardly get it out with a straight face. It's almost unbelievable that he would say something like that." But that's a direct quote. I'm not making that up. Brandon, did Austin Hill and Richard Childress cross the line with their comments here?
Yeah, you did. You're his teammate, and Richard Childress, you signed him on. I don't understand that. And Andy Petrie too. Whatever he yelled at Sheldon also needs to be addressed here. Whatever that was, I think he actually apologized later on, but Andy Petrie was basically just upset that Sheldon didn't, race him off four at least. Try to race Allgaier off four. He claimed that he wasn't trying out of four to win the race because it was a must-win for them, and Hill was thinking, it's going to be a must-win for them too, depending on where Creed was going to be placing himself there. Ironically enough, you pointed out pre-show, Sheldon Creed finished second, and Austin Hill finished 21st. That's their car numbers. So let's get our tinfoil hats out and start. Cat has the zoomies. Yeah, let's get our
tinfoil hat out for you.
Yeah, tinfoil hats out and start thinking NASCAR script writers, I guess. Whatever that is, whatever that nonsense is.
There's got to be some sort of connection there with the numerology and everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I don't feel like the team's been around 50 years, right? Like, do you know how impressive of a statement that is? You've had how many drivers drive for you over literally half of a century? Yet Sheldon Creed is the one that you're saying, oh, this is the stupidest guy I've ever had drive. I mean, you can't make this up.
That's pretty rough. I don't know, and I hope he comes back at Phoenix and addresses that. I hope someone asks him about that, because that kind of general kind of comment needs to be addressed. It needs to be. Please define that, Mr. Childress. Please explain to us what that meant. I highly doubt that's actually what he means. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Richard Childress is he's a respectable man. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I think this is not actually what he means. That it was a heat of the moment comment, and that he probably didn't mean with that full intention. So I don't want to run off with it and call foul and say, "Oh, Richard Childress doesn't know what he's talking about." But still, that kind of thing, it needs to be defined.
Yeah, I don't usually go here, but for a number of reasons, I feel less bad going here than I normally would. But I will just point out, John West Townley drove for Richard Childress.
That he did.
I mean, if we're going to put Sheldon Creed on that level, I mean, Sheldon Creed is an ARCA champion, is a truck champion. Oh, he hasn't had the success in Xfinity that he's had in the other divisions, the other series that he's driven in. But that is quite a statement for a team that has been around as long as RCR has. And I'm with you, Brandon. I hope that this was just heat of the moment and frustration, and it's obviously an ugly divorce, and Creed's not coming back there next year. We joked about the competition meetings. I've mentioned backstage as well. I think back to when Brian Vickers won his first race with Hendrick and inadvertently spinning out Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. at Talladega to make that happen. And I'm sure people were thinking, oh, that must have been an interesting competition meeting, but they were even quick to point out on the NBC broadcast that day, Brian Vickers was no longer allowed in the Hendrick team meetings at that point because he was on his way to Red Bull with Toyota in 07. I don't know. Is Sheldon Creed? I mean, there are some questions as to whether or not Creed should even be in the car this upcoming weekend at Phoenix. Like, if you're Jesse Love, are you kind of hoping, oh, maybe this is getting really tense? Hey, if you guys need a driver, we've already clinched the ARCA championship. Our season's over.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe Gibbs returns the favor, brings the 54 back out, or I don't know who's in the 19 this weekend. I know, but that ride has rotated quite a bit with Mike Schneider and Joe Graff Jr. and Trevor Bayne and Ryan Truex and all sorts of people this year. But You know, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, this will lead nicely into a follow-up here for you, Brandon. With where this situation is right now, is there something to be said about maybe Sheldon Creed and RCR should just completely walk away from this uncomfortable, awkward weekend coming up at Phoenix and, hey, we'll release you from your contract to race early? Is there any merit to that discussion being had?
No, I don't want them. I don't want them to do that. I want him to finish it out. He's got a contract. Finish it out. It goes for all this. And the fact that there's drama is not Sheldon Creed's fault per se. It's all been put upon him. It's not his fault. It's RCR making a mess of themselves and frankly embarrassing themselves between all their leadership. So no, you sign this guy for the rest of the 2023 season. Let him race at Phoenix. Put him in the 2 car. Let him stay there. Let him race one more time. And this could be, you know, he's still got a fast hot rod. This could end up being like a KBM truck story where, you know, the driver totally hates the team owner, but goes out and wins it and you know, shows them what for.
Yeah. Back to Todd Gill. Yeah. At Martinsville of all places, right?
Yeah.
This always seems to happen. We always get some sort of drama like this. You think back to this race last year and Brandon Jones talked about how he couldn't wait to get out of Joe Gibbs Racing. Now I think Sheldon Creed can't wait to get into Joe Gibbs Racing. And
it's a trap too. Don't worry, buddy. You're going to another trap. They have a bad history too.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But I will note, Matt DiBenedetto got eliminated from the playoffs with Rackley War. What's he doing right now? I mean, it's not like it would be unprecedented for him to get released a race early, or maybe he just says, you know what, I've had enough. I don't want to deal with you people. Because I think to your point, Brandon, as well, I mean, could you make the argument that Creed pushed the issue a little bit and, you know, maybe rubbed some fenders the wrong way? You know, of course. But, you know, there were 15 cautions. I mean, I made the joke. I tweeted this out during the race. Welcome to the Dead on Tools 250 cautions of Martinsville on USA Network, right? I mean, it was just, there was so much of his race was run under yellow. And I said this on yesterday's wrap-up show as well. I love this package. I love what the Xfinity Series has here. I think there's, and it's a common theme we always talk about on the show, I think there's a lack of respect, particularly with the young drivers in the Xfinity and Truck Series level, that leads to chaos like this. And I mean,
for sure. I
forget who sent the tweet out. Somebody said, I think it was maybe Gluck that said that they had to go to Walmart to get more Tide to treat the surface of the racetrack because there was so much oil spilled after the Xfinity race. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Like that's the level of carnage that we saw. But to bring it all back, I don't know if Sheldon Creed has anywhere close to the most blood on his hands, so to speak, based on, you know, the amount of torn up race cars that we saw at the end of that race, because everybody was driving, you know, over their heads at some point or another. I mean, how many cars weren't? Justin Allgaier hit the wall coming across the start finish line the final lap. He ended up bouncing back to win the race. I think that's something that got lost in all that. That's going to make for a fantastic race to win diecast with how much damage is on the right side of that car. I mean, that and he and Creed, I mean, to your point as well, I think this is maybe what Andy Petrie was getting at. Maybe if Creed comes off that corner straight and doesn't rub on the side of the 7 car there, does he maybe win the race by inches? And we're having an entirely different conversation right now. I mean, it's something to think about.
Yeah, clearly it was something that Andy Petrie saw. Like, of course he could have done that off 4, and I guess just thought that Sheldon was focusing on the wrong thing, and by the time they got to the line, it was too late. Joe says, I agree. RCR racing mess starts with the leadership. The racing mess starts with the leadership. Richard and Andy could have radio to think big picture, but have both cars in and said, nope, no cars. And yeah, and that's exactly what I think Andy was thinking too. Like from his perspective, I was about to have 1 at Phoenix. Now I've got none. And so therefore I'm upset, and I have the right to be upset.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if Creed finishes first, he'll finish the second. You got 2. And I think that's Joe's point there. Now, again, I don't want to get into the whole team orders thing because I mean, people know how I feel about that as well. And I think a lot of people despise team orders. And, you know, you want to, like, I'm not saying Austin Hill lay over and, you know, and we went through this. I mean, last year at the same race with Ty Gibbs, right? You know, Ty Gibbs was already Ty Gibbs was already locked into a championship 4. He did not need to win that race to go have a championship chance at Phoenix. And he still punted Brandon Jones out of the way. The problem wasn't that he raced Brandon Jones hard for the win, even though Brandon Jones needed the win to make the championship 4. The problem was how he took the lead from Brandon Jones, and that setting off the firestorm that did. But everybody's saying, oh, Ty Gibbs should have just, stood by and finished in second place and let his teammate win the race to go to a championship 4. I don't believe that at all. It was how he did it that was the issue. So people saying, Austin Hill should have, been the ultimate team player and we're just talking about with Allgaier, like a win in the penultimate race of the year. Do you know how much momentum and positive confidence boost that has to be for any driver? Austin Hill would, heck yeah, you go do everything you can to win that race within reason. Obviously, you don't do what Ty Gibbs did last year, and deal with the consequences of that. But ultimately, to have a situation in RCR, I completely get Richard Childress and Andy Petrie's frustration in particular as team leaders and everything. But again, to go so far as to call Sheldon Creed the stupidest driver you've ever had,
it's a stretch.
Yeah, and there's got to be something's got to work itself out, because ultimately I would bet my money on Sheldon Creed being in the 2 car this weekend. I wouldn't be, my jaw wouldn't be on the floor if I read something in the next couple of days that says he won't be. But I'd venture a guess he probably will be. They're probably going to, ride it out and do this one last race together, and then maybe not so peacefully part ways, but go their separate ways heading into 24. Something's got to improve over there.